Trials of Osiris. Those might be the three most controversial words in the Destiny community today. Ever since Bungie launched the big revamp for Trials back in early September, the community has been talking about the mode non-stop, from smashing high water participation marks for Trials in the first weekend of the revamp, to the endless debate about the flawless pool, to the disaster of matchmaking that was the total wins-based weekend. Trials has been all over the place while trying to establish itself. And really, what is Trials trying to be? Is it an endgame loot farming playlist? The PvP mirror of Grandmaster Nightfalls? Is it a competitive playlist where everyone should be playing equally skilled opponents? And the entire concept of going flawless is predicated on 7 other teams being cannon fodder for the one team that succeeds in going to the Lighthouse. Trials has an identity crisis, and it comes down to it being impossible for the mode to simultaneously service the 3 goals of loot farming, competitive matchmaking, and the current concept of flawless. Something needs to give, and in my opinion, that something is the current concept of flawless itself. Back at the start of Season of the Lost, Bungie published a long article about the newly revamped Trials, and they specifically called out their key goals for the mode. They want more people playing, they want more players doing something besides flawless or bust and resetting their card once they take a loss. They want to make more people feel like they can win more often, make the rewards on par with other similar activities in the game, and finally, embrace movement, conflict, and resolution during a match. On this list of goals, there is something clearly absent: maintaining the current structure of flawless. I believe that Bungie can achieve all of their development goals with some relatively straightforward changes to the Trials passage system, as well as some other quality of life tweaks to make the Trials experience as a whole more fun and rewarding for everyone. Let's jump in. So, first off, let's talk about how we can overhaul the Trials passage system in such a way that we can simultaneously make flawless or achievable for everyone, while also properly incentivizing good players to want to play other good players. To do this, Trials needs to have 4 truly distinctive passages, each one catering to a different kind of player. The first of these passages would be the passage of persistence. This passage would require 14 wins to go flawless, double the current 7, but losses wouldn't matter at all, and your card stays flawless no matter what. Once you get to the 14th win, you'd be unable to queue into any more Trials matches until you go to the Lighthouse, grab your loot, and get a new card. The passage of persistence would only be usable once per weekend, a compromise between letting people get a flawless run each week, but still making multiple flawless runs in a weekend difficult and special. This would allow everyone, no matter their skill level, to be able to visit the Lighthouse each and every weekend, and this would be an excellent way to boost the Trials population, as everyone would have a clear path to visiting the Lighthouse and snagging a roll of the weekly Adept weapon. And as week 1 of the Trials revamp showed, the #1 key to a thriving Trials experience is to boost the population up as much as possible. The second Trials passage would be the Passage of Mercy, which would be the same as the current Mercy passage in the game today, requiring 7 wins to go flawless with 1 loss forgiven. This would become the preferred card of people doing Sherpa runs, or regular players who want to hit the Lighthouse more than once per weekend to acquire loot unique to the Lighthouse itself, like the rare cosmetics, or Adept mods like Adept Icarus. The third Trials passage would be the Passage of Wealth, which would double the amount of Trials reputation gained on match completion and from reaching 3, 5, and 7 match wins on a ticket. This would become the preferred card of regular players that want to maximize reputation gains for more rewards and don't care if said reward is Adept or not. And rounding things out would be the last Trials passage, the Passage of Prestige, which would unlock after going flawless for the first time in a given week, and would become the preferred card of great players that want to farm adept rewards by playing against other great players. With this passage, you would only match against other players and fire teams that are also on a Passage of Prestige, basically an opt-in flawless pool. Bungie has been forcing players into a flawless pool after going flawless once per weekend, but have done nothing to properly reward or incentivize players to actually want to play in a flawless pool. Giving players a carrot to go chase in a flawless pool is a far better option than using the flawless pool as a stick and punishing players for daring to succeed in the mode. And to make the Prestige passage enough of a carrot to chase, I'd implement some juicy rewards. First off, at the end of any match while on a Prestige passage, win or loss, there would be a chance for a superior Trials engram to drop, which would decrypt into either a weapon with an extra perk in one or both of the final two columns, similar to the Season of the Lost Tier 3 weapon engrams, or would decrypt as a high stat armor piece with a large focus on one random stat. The drop rate of this superior Trials engram would increase as the amount of round wins on your passage increases. That way, even if you're losing games, you'd still be working towards something cool. In addition to the superior Trials engram, once you get to 7 wins on a Prestige passage, every win would drop a guaranteed Ascendant Shard, a guaranteed Adept Weapon, and a chance for an exotic piece of armor. This would mimic the reward structure of a platinum completion of a GM Nightfall. Furthermore, there would be a very low chance to receive the Scarab Heart emblem on any win with a 7-win Prestige passage, making it a true PvP flex emblem and a very rare commodity to chase after. And finally, if you go flawless on a Prestige passage, you would get 3 superior Adept weapons that would have an extra perk in the 3rd column. The 4th column always comes with Celerity as an additional perk already. You would also then get an exclusive emblem that tracks your total number of Prestige flawless runs, an exclusive shader with a new shader added and featured each season, and a guaranteed drop of one of the base Lighthouse cosmetics if you don't already own all 3, aka the 2 sparrows and the ship. With all these changes to the Trials passage system, we could have a thriving PvP endgame mode that services all kinds of players, from the bottom of the skill spectrum grinding out a guaranteed adept weapon each week, to the top end of the PvP ladder duking it out for crazy rewards in the Prestige pool. Everyone would win. Now, let's turn our attention to Trials more generically and discuss additional quality of life changes that could drastically improve the mode. With the passage structure of Trials Revamped, let's talk about a number of other quality of life changes that I think would breathe a lot of new life into the mode. First off, I'd like to see general Crucible playlist weapons drop when playing Trials randomly at match completion, similar to how Strike playlist weapons drop when doing GM Nightfalls, because it's kind of crazy that you can play a PvP mode and not get general PvP weapons to drop. The drop rate of Crucible playlist weapons could increase as the amount of round wins on your passage increases, as yet another incentive to go deeper into cards. The next quality of life change I'd make is to have the original Trials weapons and armor be focusable at Saint 14 and also drop randomly for match completions when playing Trials, no matter what win you're on and no matter what type of card you're running, giving players more reasons just to jump in and play, even if they're not winning. Another change I'd make would be to shield the bottom 1/3 of the player base in terms of PvP skill from playing anyone in the top 1/3 of the skill spectrum for the first 2 games of a Trials passage. This mild SBMM would protect the bottom portion of the player population from getting farmed right when starting out on a card, but in a way that doesn't ruin the experience for the top half of the skill spectrum, as they would still have plenty of players at and below their skill level to play. And on the subject of matchmaking, the base Trials matchmaking system should absolutely be card-based and also connection quality. No more gimmicks like the current forced flawless pool or the total wins-based matchmaking we saw at the end of October. The changes to loot and the passage system removes the need to have these bad matchmaking paradigms. Also, I should note that with the new passage of persistence making flawless something achievable by pretty much anyone, this then gives all players the ability to farm the weekly adept weapon by getting either a mercy or wealth passage up to 7 wins and then turning that card in to Saint 14. For a more efficient farm, players would be encouraged to test their mettle and get on a 7-win prestige card. But for players who don't want to play players way above their skill level, they would still have a chance to play fairer matches and still get some additional adept weapon drops every week. And on that note, the cost to focus an engram into the weekly adept weapon should only be the 7-win passage itself. Since it takes close to an hour for even the most efficient players who don't lose a game to earn a 7-win card, it's not like players would be able to spam adept weapons from Saint 14 anyways. There's just no need for the exuberant shard and glimmer costs for this focusing option, especially when you compare it to the adept weapon acquisition scene in GM Nightfalls or in raids. And honestly, the cost to focus Trials engrams into normal gear should be heavily reduced as well, as it's prohibitively expensive compared to all other focus farms in the game. And as for the final changes that I'd like to see implemented into Trials, Bungie is already quite a few steps ahead of me. In particular, how to properly balance the needs of solo, duo, and full fire team players. Bungie announced in a TWAB a few weeks back that they are exploring the possibility of preferential matchmaking of full fire teams against other full fire teams, duo plus solo against other duo plus solo, as well as full solo lobbies. This potential change to matchmaking is arguably the most important change that Bungie could make for the health of the Trials playlist. So I very much do hope that we see this arrive by the Witch Queen. Personally, I believe that this new matchmaking system would be the best overall solution for the mode long term, as it keeps the entire player population in a single playlist, rather than dividing it up between a team playlist and a freelance playlist. I'll admit, I quite enjoyed playing in the freelance playlist when Bungie tested it out, but if it stuck around permanently, it would tank the population and quality of the main team playlist. I think that freelance coming around every month or two as a special Trials event would be an awesome way to spice up the mode and keep it feeling fresh over time. And lastly, in regards to zone trials, after having played a card in Bungie's latest iteration of the Special Trials variant yesterday morning, with the zone only spawning in one of 3 neutral spots in the middle of the map, I had a lot of fun with it. However, like with the freelance playlist, I think that this special version of elimination should be used as a fun event each season to spice up the mode, rather than becoming the new baseline for how Trials plays. A more fast-paced, objective-based mode like this belongs elsewhere, namely a revamped competitive playlist. Trials and its central pillar of going flawless is unfortunately completely incompatible with a system that matches players against other players of the same skill level. This would mean that each game, ideally, would be a coin flip in a truly competitive setting, and you'd have to win that coin flip 7 times in a row to go flawless. The odds of that are a horrific 0.78%, meaning that almost no one would ever be able to go flawless. The changes I've recommended would truly turn Trials into an endgame PvP loot pinata, similar to how GM Nightfalls are the endgame PvE loot pinata. Everyone would have a fair shot at earning adept weapons every week, and the better of a player you become, the more efficiently you'd be able to earn Trials rewards in the prestige pool. To better complement this final form of Trials, which is now set in stone as the endgame loot PvP playlist, this leaves the competitive playlist as the perfect place to craft a true ranked competitive playlist, where your rank is an actual indicator of your skill and you test yourself against other similarly ranked players to move up the ranks and strut your stuff. People still bring up Halo 3 over a decade later in its 1 through 50 rank system. It was something that people were proud of, and it was an intrinsically rewarding experience to be able to say, yeah, I was a 50 in Slayer. A revitalized competitive playlist could feature rotating objective-based modes as well as Slayer-based modes. Imagine playing King of the Hill, Capture the Flag, Zone Control, as well as pure Slayer modes like Clash or Survival. You could also tie all sorts of cool cosmetic rewards to this revamped competitive playlist, with things like armor ornaments available to earn each season, and really cool stuff like, say, an exclusive in-game title available only to players who finish in the top 500 of all players at season's end. A title that lasts for the following season and would then need to be re-earned the next season to keep it available. Bungie has been doing an excellent job of cleaning up the vast majority of the problem outliers of the PvP sandbox, and the game is more ready than ever to invest deeply into a truly competitive ranked playlist. And just like that, we've come to the end of another video. Hopefully you guys all enjoyed this latest installment and how we can continue to evolve Destiny 2. Sorry for being away for the last few months, guys. I've been extremely busy with my engineering job, and in all honesty, I feel like I've made videos on all the major aspects of Destiny 2 that need to be revamped. For the most part, Destiny 2 is in a really good spot, and the Witch Queen is looming ever closer, with subclasses 3.0, weapon crafting, plans for updating Gambit, and more. There is a lot to be excited about come February. And not only that, but I've been quietly laying the groundwork for a brand new video series to debut once the Witch Queen arrives. As I look to the future, I foresee a new niche that I can fill on YouTube, similar to how I spent most of this year discussing how Destiny 2's design could evolve. In the meantime, I'll continue to live stream every weekend over on Twitch, so if you ever want to pick my brain about anything Destiny related, or if you're looking for a fun community to come hang out with, make sure to check out the channel. And as always, if you guys want to see more of this kind of content, please make sure to subscribe, hit that like button, and leave a comment down below. Have a wonderful week, guys, and I hope to catch you all in the next one. This has been your host, QJ. Cheers.